a couple of things in this video, right? I think we can do three topics, in my opinion. And then obviously, if you want to add something, you can just let me know, or just say it. But the first three things that I want to go ahead and discuss is, obviously, I want to talk about Thursday's game, which is going to be Barcelona versus Atletico de Madrid in the Supercopa de España semifinal. I'm sorry, Copa del Rey. I'm sorry, Copa del Rey semifinal. And then I also want to go ahead and talk one of I guess one of your favorite players too, right? During the preseason, last season, of course, before the ACL injury, we both say how good Bernal could be, and then I guess we're starting to see how much he's recovering and how good he's starting to look on the field again, right? And then I guess Laporta, what do you think about obviously him running again? Do you think he should win? And I know there's another candidate, Victor Font, who is running, against Laporta. But I want to go ahead and ask you first, right? Let's go ahead and stick to the Laporta running again. He obviously stepped out on Monday, which was yesterday, because his term was over. So he's gonna run again. What do you think, bro? Like, just give me like I guess a quick recap or a quick review of, this time of Laporta's presidency. Once again, this time, are you satisfied? Do you think there was things that he could have done differently? Uh, just give me an overall rating based on his, this, this time.
Yeah, I think I think when Laporta got there, bro, Barca were in ruins. I remember when Bartomeu, right, took Barca to the ground, literally to the ground, almost bankrupt. So Laporta got Barca in a very fragile state, and I do think that besides maybe just two key moments, that he did have that I do think were not as good or were not handled the best way, for us, right, us Barca fans, was the first one was the Messi thing,
Mm.
where he he hugged the mannequin and then he got rid of Messi. That's one, right? And then the second one was the handling of Xavi's departure, right? How Xavi left Barca as a coach. So I think besides those two things, those two moments, I do want to say that I think Laporta has done a pretty good job, bro. Because um, let's not forget that Barca were in ruins, financial ruins, and although I don't think that they're back to how they used to be, they're getting close to it. And then let's also not forget that the stadium was rebuilt under his presidency this term around. So overall, I think he's done a pretty good job. Now looking forward, I do think that the only thing that I like about Fort, right, or it's Font, right, Font,
Font, Victor Font, uh-huh.
yeah, Victor Font. The only thing that I like so far about him, from what he said, is that if he's the new president, Flick will continue as coach. That's one, and that Deco will no longer be sporting director. So that's one good thing that I think he said. But besides that, bro, I don't. I think he's also just saying a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, are political statements. For example, the first thing I'm gonna do is call Messi. We're gonna get Haaland or Junior Alvarez. Stuff like that. Where it's like, realistically speaking, that's probably not gonna happen. So you're just making statements just to gain power. So I actually would like to Laporta to continue, bro. I think Laporta has unfinished business at Barca, and I would like him to finish it up. And I do think that the whole thing with Flick, right, where he gambled on Flick, it played out. We did say it, right. Him getting rid of Xavi and bringing in Flick was a gamble.
Yeah.
It can either go good or it can either go bad. And so far, it's gone good, right? I mean, we can all agree that Flick has done a really good job at Barca. So I like I said, I do want to see him continue. I want to see him finish. I want to see the stadium completely finished and being built under his presidency because he started it. And yeah, bro. I mean, to be fair, I think he's done a good job. I will give him a rating. Besides those two moments, I will give him an 8 out of 10, bro. 8, 9 out of 10.
Okay. You know what? I agree with you. I would add another, moment, in my opinion, that maybe I can understand why he did what he did, right, with Messi, with Xavi. And the moment that I wanted to add as well was with Coman, right? Based on the fact that, like I said, Coman, given the squad that he had at the time, I know he wasn't playing. I know the team wasn't performing good. You know, I guess, Coman also came into a Barcelona where they were pretty much in a decline, bro, already. Um, I do think, however, though, that Laporta did whatever he had to do to pretty much save Barcelona, right? I think time in and time out, a lot of us have always said that Barcelona comes before any other player, before any coach, before any member, 'cause it's the club. The club is always going to remain there, right? Um, Players come and go, unfortunately. That's just the rule of life, right? So when he got rid of Xavi, I can also understand that as well because I know that, Barcelona were also struggling under Xavi. There were certain players that Xavi that weren't performing good under Xavi. And I can go ahead and say that I believe that Xavi lost the locker room, right? Because remember, there was reports that came out that Xavi wanted to replace Rafinha and Lewandowski, right? And there was also reports that came out that Xavi wanted to go ahead and go back into the transfer market because he so much needed another CDM, another center middle, right? And then the player that was mostly talked about at that time was Subimendi, right? And then even De Jong wasn't performing good under Xavi. So you have certain players that weren't performing under Xavi, and I think it's just about him losing the locker room. And then with Messi as well, right? Unfortunately for Messi, none of us wanted to see Messi leave the way he left. I think every Barcelona fan thought that Messi was going to pretty much be like a Carles Puyol or a Xavi or Iniesta, right? Where it's like they have the big moment and they leave through the front door. But whatever happened, I guess, Messi himself feels kind of like, betrayed by Laporta because he felt like, you kind of used my name to pretty much get reelected. And once you got reelected, you broke all the promises to me. It is what it is. We will never know the inside stories of that, the true inside story of that. But truth of the matter is that I do believe that at the end of the day, what Laporta did, I guess, is the reason why Barcelona is back to where they are right now, right? And just real quick, I wanted to go ahead and elaborate on what you said about Deco, right? Because time in time out, both you and I have bashed on Deco, and it's not just because we don't like him or because we're delusional, bro. Or we want him to bring these players that we think that Barcelona need, right? Like me and you have always been calling out for Julian Alvarez, right? It's not about that, right? We can go ahead and just real quick talk about players that Deco has tried to bring, he has failed to bring, and players that he's brought in that should have never been brought, right? And just real quick, Victor Roque, right? I remember at the time Xavi wanted Subimendi. Deco said, hey, we don't have money, but then you go ahead and you purchase 45, 55 million for Victor Roque, right? You let go of Inigo Martinez for free. Then you go ahead and you get Cancelo, right? Um, and it's like you start wondering, okay, you go ahead and you fail to bring Nico Williams twice. Then you get Olmo, which is, do we really need Olmo at the time, right? And then you still have reports about maybe De Jong. You wanted to get rid of De Jong, wanted to get rid of Fermin, right? It's like these little things, in my opinion, I think that they haven't really been brought to light, in my opinion, or Deco hasn't really been seen by the true Barca fans because Barcelona has not been doing bad. But if Barcelona were doing bad, bro, I think a lot of people would be bashing Deco. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you want to add something more to that, to the whole Deco thing. But if not, I mean, we can go ahead and move on.
No, I agree with you, dude. I think overall Deco, in my opinion, he um I mean, there's just now one besides Juan Garcia probably that
Hmm.
one good signing that Deco has done that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this one makes a lot of sense and has improved the squad significantly, right? Besides Juan Garcia, I don't see any. As a matter of fact, he's let go of players that he shouldn't have let go, right? Inigo Martinez, right? Dro, right? Is
Yeah.
another one. The failure of signing Nico Williams twice, bringing in Victor Roque instead of Subimendi, which is a player that Barca actually needed. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think Deco. I think the real Barca fans that stay up to date with Barca, they will understand and they will know that Deco has been no good for Barca at all whatsoever. And yeah, like I will leave it at that. That's one thing, good thing that I like what Font said is that if he does become president, Deco will no longer be sporting director. And I agree with that statement. I really do.
I agree. I agree with you too, and I agree with Victor Fons. But I also think, and just as much as you said as well, I think that at this point, bro, Victor Fons shouldn't be a Barcelona president. As tempting as it sounds for Deco not to be the sporting director, I rather have Deco there, honestly, if that means having Laporta there, right? Because
That's
in
true.
my opinion, I feel like Laporta knows what he's doing, right? So far, he's been doing good, and then you know what? Maybe next season, bro. To be honest, we can talk about bringing in a tier player like Julian Alvarez. So whatever. I also agree with you. I give Laporta like a 9 to 10 rating in my opinion. I think that Laporta, something that he does need to do though, bro. I'll be honest, is he needs to go. He needs to try to bring the Champions League back. It's been a long time that Barcelona has won the Champions League, and I think that should be Barcelona's number one goal. I I said it once and I'll say it before. I love Flick. I think he's doing an amazing job with Barcelona, but I also don't want him to be the Valverde, where it's like you won back-to-back leagues, you won so many league titles, but you failed to do it in the Champions League, right? So it's only this Flick's second full season, so I guess we'll go from there. But let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see how he does. But
Yeah, I agree.
another topic I wanted to go ahead and discuss was the Marc Bernal, right? I think that just real quick, me and you both said before his ACL injury, right? When Xavi, I think it was Xavi who debuted him and Casado at the same time, correct?
I think it was no. I think Flick debuted Bernal, and I think Xavi debuted Casado.
Okay. So when we saw, I remember there was a preseason when Casado was playing and then as well as Bernal, right? And I think both you and I mentioned to each other that Marc Bernal just looks sick. For the age of 17 at the time when we saw him debut, we were like, man, he looks sick. And we were so excited, but then his ACL happened, right? And then unfortunately, he was down for like over a year. And little by little, Flick has been pretty much bringing him up back to playing, and he's been giving him little moments. And I think right now, bro, we can start seeing the Marc Bernal as, you know, of the glimpse that he gave us back then. So, what do you think, bro? You excited? Like, I know he scored a nice goal. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually happy for him, dude, because it's not easy to come back right after that horrific injury and get some playing time, at the first team. So I'm happy for him. I think Flick has been bringing him up slowly. I also know that he wanted to leave. He was, I think he had requested that he wanted to get more playing time, and I think there was talks that he was going to go to Girona on loan. I'm glad he didn't. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Flick had promised him more playing time, and he's been fulfilling it. Right, he's been playing him more. So I do want to see him more. I think he's young. He's what, 18 still? 18,
18
19.
now, yeah.
So he's still very young, bro, and he has a lot of room for development, a lot of room for growth. Um, and I think Flick is managing him very well. Because you don't want him to suffer another serious injury, which can obviously be devastating, right? And then you also don't want to go ahead and loan him out, because if you loan him out, what if he never really fully recovers, right? So I think the way Flick has been bringing him is really good, and I also, I have said it before too, and hopefully one day, we can probably see it, because I kind of do see him playing in that position, which is a center back, the left center back position. I kind of wanted, I always wanted Flick to try him out there. He never did. He stuck to trying Gerard Martin there. But I feel like Bernard can play as a left center back, bro. I don't know why. I feel like he has the composure, he has the passing, he has the strength as well. To hold off the ball. He has the defending IQ for it. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But so far, yeah, I'm really happy with Bernard, bro, and yeah, we'll see how Flick manages him, and hopefully, he can really be the future Busquets that many people are saying he could be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Marc Bernal probably can play as a center back, bro. But honestly, I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of glad that he started playing Gerard Martin as a center back, right? Because I feel like Gerard Martin has been doing really good as a center back, and I feel like for the longest time, maybe as Barcelona fans, I think we started looking ahead of like, yo, who can be the next player to fulfill that CDM position? Obviously, De Jong is doing it now, right, alongside Pedri, but I think Bernat could be a hell of a player in that position, bro. A hell of a player. I think he can be there, and so for me, I think that that's the player and that's the role that I would try to fulfill for Bernal. I'll say, hey, I want you to be the center, the CDM for future. So I'm hoping that he can keep playing good, and I hope he gets more minutes as as like you mentioned, Flick has been giving him, and let's see what happens, bro. Because he's still a very young player, and like I agree with you, you also don't want him to get injured again because you have an example of Gavi, unfortunately. How crucial playing time or being able to come back slow is for a player who just recovered from an ACL injury. You just never know what could happen.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's true. Gavi is a good example, bro. When he
yeah,
came back and he relapsed, so you don't want Bernal the same thing to happen to Bernal because that can be, those kind of injuries could be career ending, bro.
100%. But what I do want to talk about really, bro, is the Atletico de Madrid, right? We have another important game coming up against a top team, in my opinion, right? I consider Atletico de Madrid to be a top team. This is going to be played Thursday, right? And we are going to be playing away. It's a two-leg match, of course. It's for the it's the Copa del Rey semifinal. Barcelona plays away first. Real quick, dude. What are you expecting from this game? I mean, do you think it's going to be a tough match? Obviously, we drew them last year. Scoreboards, players. Um, yeah, just give me your overall thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, it's crazy, dude, how time flies. To be honest, because yeah, it was just 1 year ago, bro, that we had him.
Yeah.
And I remember that tie. It was a pretty good tie. I remember the first leg. It was a 4-4, and I remember Atletico Madrid were 2 up by the 15th or 20th minute. I
Hmm.
think Julian Alvarez scored both goals, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think it was Julian Alvarez scored one, and
And
then
he
Griezmann
assisted the
scored
other.
he
Yeah.
assisted the other, yeah. And then Barca came back with the headers. Inigo Martinez header and Cobarsi header. I remember. And the game ended. It is crazy because they went from a 4-2. Barca were 4-2 up from a 4-2 to a 4-4. So that was a
Yeah.
crazy game.
Yeah.
So, but I do think that Atletico Madrid were in much better form last year.
Oh yeah.
Um, than they are right now, bro. I think right now Atletico Madrid, unfortunately for them, they're struggling. They're struggling to score goals. To the point where I had mentioned to you that Julian Alvarez hasn't scored a goal, and I don't know how many games or how many minutes. So he's,
Hmm.
he's having he's having a goal scoring drought. Obviously, Julian Alvarez can break it against Barcelona, and I do know that Barca can offer more space, than potentially some other teams that play against Atletico Madrid. But I think on form right now, I think Barca are in much better form than Atletico Madrid, attacking wise. Defending wise, yeah, of course, Barca they're still shaky in the back. They still leave a lot of open gaps. So I think Atletico Madrid are gonna have chances for sure, especially because they're at home. But I think if Barca, they finish their chances, and if they don't play Ferran Torres as a number nine, starting number nine, I think Barca can outscore them. So I do think Barca can beat them by a 1 or 2 goal difference, even though they're gonna be away, just because of the form that Atletico Madrid are in right now, dude.
Yeah. Okay, I see. I see your point. For me, I think I'm gonna go a bit like I told you, right? I'll go a little bit more conservative. I think that Atletico Madrid tends to pretty much play really good against Barcelona at times, right? Sometimes, Atletico Madrid, what they'll do is they'll go all out for like 15, 20, 30 minutes of the first game, the first half, and then they'll
Mm-hmm.
try to get that going, and then they'll sit back, right? I think we saw that many times last year, and many times that's Diego Simeone's, I think, tactics. Um, but I think that Barcelona are also struggling, right? I think Barcelona in defense, as you mentioned, have not been good, right? Time in and time out, they've just been messing up. I think Flick is still yet to find. We're already pretty much in March, right? Because we're in Feb, of course, but I mean we're closer to March than we were to Feb, right? At the time. So I think that it's kind of hard, bro. It kind of sucks that Flick is still yet to pretty much find a good defense. So I think Barcelona wins, right? Hear me out. I think Barcelona wins by one, max, if so, 2 goals, but I can also see them tying up. I can see a 1-0 or 2-1 or a 2-0 lead for Barcelona. Um, because like I mentioned, I don't think Barcelona are as good defensively as well as they were last year, right? And last year they still allowed a good amount of goals against Atletico de Madrid. Yes, they're also going to be away, so that's going to play a huge factor for Atletico de Madrid, right? And then we also don't have players, in my opinion, who I think are going to we're going to be able to see their, their absence, meaning Pedri and Rafinha, right? The way Rafinha pressures, the way Pedri handles the game, controls the momentum. I think there's no other player that can do that in Barcelona besides them two, right? And of course, I do not want to see Ferran Torres there. But if I think he's going to start with Lewandowski as he should. If he starts with Lewandowski, of course, I think he can score a goal or two. And then obviously it's going to depend a lot on how Lamine Yamal plays, right? I think he's going to be the big difference maker in this game. So yeah, I think I'll see like a 1-0, 2-0 lead for Barcelona. If not, I can see them tying. But I do not see them losing, to be honest. I don't see them losing.
I agree, dude. I agree with that because, like I said, I'm actually a little bit more confident now because Atletico Madrid recently they've been struggling, and Barcelona have been pretty good in attacking wise. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I wanted to mention. I talked to you real quickly, dude, about the Tommy. Did you see the he debuted Tommy Flake? He's
No, oh, that's the
the
one he joked
young,
around with his young like brother, huh? To be honest, I didn't see
yeah.
his highlights, bro. But they were saying a lot of people were talking about it, how he looked pretty good.
Yeah, bro, he actually did look pretty good. He didn't look too bad. He looked pretty comfortable on the ball, which is good. And I think he plays in that camp position. So, the departure from Joe just opened the door for him. So let's see how
That's
he
what's
does.
yeah. That's what I was gonna tell you. It's crazy because he's probably like, okay, well, Joe left, and it's crazy because Joe I think had like about 5 to 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, at PSG. He debuted as well, but he didn't look too bad
Yeah,
either, bro.
he didn't look too bad, but if I'm not mistaken, bro, I think
They were
Luis
dropping
Enrique,
his ass.
Luis Enrique has been having him train with the reserves, with the under 21, I
Yeah,
think. So I think Joe finds himself in a worse playing wise, not money wise, playing wise. He finds himself in a worse position than he was at Barca because at Barca he was already a first team player. At PSG he's still not.
not only that though, dude. Not only that, but I think a lot of people tend to forget that Luis Enrique is a type of coach who doesn't give a damn, bro.
Hmm.
He does not give a damn, and I think you mentioned it last time in one of our videos, right? That he pretty much went at it with Messi at
He did, yeah,
Barcelona. To the point where it's like they
yeah,
were going to get rid of him, but he didn't care. He went at it, and then yeah, after a while, he kind of caved in because at the end of the day, it's like you also have to ask yourself and tell yourself like, yo, I am arguing against a player who, technically speaking, he can back it up. I'm not
yeah,
arguing against a player who thinks he's that guy, but he's not that guy. But
yeah.
just real quick, right? He went at it with Totti at Roma. He was coaching Roma. He went at it with uh, Messi at Barcelona, and he also went at it with Mbappe at PSG,
Hmm.
right? So he technically speaking doesn't care. So with that being
Yeah,
said, he's gonna if he doesn't like Dro just because they bought him, whatever, he won't play him. So in my opinion, Dro, this is something that I think both you and I agreed on, and we mentioned that when certain players at that age of throw, bro, move aboard and move otherwise to like, to other clubs, that is something that they need to go ahead and evaluate. Okay, is this team going to play me? Am I going to fit in? Is the style of play going to suit me? What position am I going to play? How many minutes am I going to play? It's not about being comfortable and never leaving your nest, right? But you're only 17. You already kind of had an idea of how Fleek wanted you to play. You kind of grew up with the same teammates from La Masia. So why not, I guess, exploit that, right? And then if you do want to move on later on. Don't make the same mistakes as that of Xavi Simmons, Alex Moriba, etc. Players who have left because not because they've had to, but because they wanted to. Just be, hey, I want more money. So I don't know. I think that we're gonna wait and see what happens with Dro, in my opinion.
we'll see. And yeah, but at this point I don't care what happens to him, to be honest. I really don't care.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens Thursday, dude. Let's see what happens with the re-elections, and let's see what happens with Bernal. And yeah, let's see what happens, dude. I guess we'll discuss, the scoreboard on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.